While the world slowly crawls into the dawn of a new reality after over a year of being locked away, it seems as though the food industry is poised for a redefinition. Soldiers who battled for years on the front lines preparing sustenance for the privileged are ringing the bells of change, forging their own path into the future without the weights of neoliberalism. Igor Kuznetzov has represented the rebellion far before the onset. His lawless desire to pay homage to craft bleeds through every aspect of his work as he raises his fist for what is right and his middle finger for what is not. Today on COCINA Pirata Podcast, Igor joins me to discuss what the future looks like through the lens of an anarchist cook whose only objective is to upheave oppression by respecting product and building bridges to autonomous community.
Contra la muerte, nosotros demandamos vida. Contra el silencio, exigimos la palabra y el respeto. Contra el olvido, la memoria. Contra la humillación y el desprecio, la dignidad. Contra la opresión, la rebeldía. Contra la esclavitud, la libertad. Contra la imposición, la democracia. Y contra el crimen, la justicia.
All right. What's up, brother? How are you doing?
Yeah, all great. What's up with you? How
Mexico's been pretty loose, man. To be honest with you, it's been pretty. We're in where we live is in Puerto Escondido, and it's on the beach. It's pretty. It's there's 5-6 flights a day going in, and it's kind of this hippie party community. So there wasn't there was some restrictions that came through, but mostly it was pretty wild, to be honest with you, and it exploded. It felt a bit toxic. Actually, we're going to end up leaving Puerto Escondido because of the growth that happened during COVID from people from the outside. So it was wild.
So it was that you had to leave.
Yeah, I mean, we just want to get out of there because of what happened during COVID. Just the growth that happened there, we found it to be a kind of a respite from the outside world, and it seems like the outside world flooded in. We'll keep our projects there. I've got a nonprofit that's helping the farms on the coast there. My wife's got a hotel there, like a small boutique hotel, hostel, yoga retreat that she'll keep. And then I'm opening another concept there. So we'll keep roots there, but we're gonna try to set sail and check out Baja California. So you're in Vienna, yeah?
Yes, man. I am in Vienna, in beautiful Central Europe. Beautiful people, almost like in California.
Yeah.
Less sun and more police control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in Austria, restaurants, well, all Horeca is closed for already 5 months, since 3rd of November. Everything is closed, so our industry is being kind of choked.
Yeah.
To death.
Yeah.
Or somehow I have a feeling that they're trying to torture or choke us to the point where we reach the clinical death, and then they will revive the ones which are willing to survive somehow this way.
Yeah.
And the rest maybe will just leave the, I mean, I don't want to speak it out, but kind of leave the market, because that's what I'm planning to do, for example.
Yeah.
Yes. It was very close to the beginning. Actually, it's something what I wanted before, to get out of the city and grow the stuff I'm cooking, or get it literally from my neighbors, because, as one great colleague of mine said yesterday, she would like to control what she's cooking.
Yeah.
Have more control of it or over it.
Yeah.
And also to have more control over what what myself is eating.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've been for a long time somebody who is against supermarkets, industrially produced food. Whereas, it's actually it's actually ironic, because when I was a young boy, I grew up in suburbs of Moscow.
Yeah.
In the 90s. So the worst time and place coincidence or concoction, mixture, because right after the Soviet Union it was total chaos. People went to a shop with a baseball bat, hit the owner on the head, and said, "Okay, now it's my shop." And that's it. So basically, it makes. Yes. And then I was, how old was I? Maybe 10, maybe 8. I think something like that. When the first, proper size, large, kind of, as we know them from today, supermarket opened nearby in the neighborhood. It was really like a hypermarket, really large one. And I went into it, and I was stoned. I saw it. I was stoned by the view of rows and rows and rows of foods, and there was the moment where I started to say, and I repeated it for years after, very often, that when I grow up, I wanna have a supermarket. I want to be owner of a supermarket. I was so in love with this supermarket thing. So, that's why I'm saying it's ironic, because that's something I would never do today. I would burn them.
Yeah.
I would Molotov cocktails into supermarkets. Just try to see that there are not so many people inside.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. I definitely can connect to that idea of being in a supermarket as a kid. No, your eyes so big with everything that you can have. Also, because I think at that point I grew up in northern Vermont, which was pretty connected to farming. And so it was pretty easy to access things around us. But of course, when you go to the supermarket, it's like all of the big shiny things and everything you could possibly want from every corner. It took a little while for me to get away. I was connected to the earth from the beginning. But as I got away, and I was working from a very young age in a kitchen, and as I got west, I just felt the draw back to that kind of working. So I understand wanting to be away from the madness. Also, I worked in Los Angeles for 6 years, and that's what brought me to rural Mexico. So I definitely feel getting the fuck out of the city. Do you how long have you been? So you were born and raised in Moscow, and when did you move to Austria?
I moved here when I was 18. I'm gonna be 36 actually in a week.
Years. Happy birthday.
50% of my years I spent here for now.
Yeah.
Also, that's one of the reasons why I want to move out, because I just don't feel comfortable with saying that I spent here more than half of my life. That sounds quite.
What's it like in Vienna? I've never been to Vienna. What's it like as a city there? I know, like, I've been to Austria. I've been to a town called Selrain, which is right outside of Innsbruck. I had some friends there who had a snowboard video production company. But
what's Vienna like?
It's a large city.
It's a hard question. No, it's got 2 million people. It's small. It's cozy. It's got a lot of beautiful architecture, mainly ugly weather, but sometimes very beautiful. I guess that's what they say today. It's very socialist, liberal.
Yeah. Do you feel that it's connected with, because the reason that we're like the way that we got connected actually was from Mindclang, the farm festival, which we
Yeah.
were both supposed to speak at last year. And of course, COVID happened and all of those plans were squashed. But is there a connection in that area to farming and to this style of living? Or is what's pushing you out that you don't feel inside the city that really exists and you want to get closer to it?
It is connected. It is definitely connected to farming. It is, we have a lot of good people here, beautiful farmers markets in almost every district, actually. Some of them are more famous, more diverse. Some of them are rather down to earth. What's moving me out of the city is the city. It's too much, too loud, too noisy, I want to wake up and hear birds singing and look out of my window and see stars in the night, mountain or ocean or a river in the morning. I also want to live the life where I wake up and start thinking, what is it I'm gonna do today? You know, without being bound to opening times of my own restaurant. Yeah. As I said, growing my stuff there, whatever stuff I grow.
Yeah. So if you guys, you're open, Noble Savage at the moment is open. I saw that you're doing some ramen pop-up as well at the moment, or?
It was just for 1.5 months.
Okay.
Yeah, we opened in December 19.
Yep.
So was not the perfect timing from that perspective.
Yeah.
We only had three months of active real working time, and then this social tragedy happened.
Yeah.
To me, it is a social tragedy. It has not much to do with the virus. I mean, it is based on the situation, though. I guess you can follow me when I say that it is a pandemia which is in the heads, not your head, and
yeah,
it's driving the humanity in my opinion, into a very uncomfortable, dark place. I don't know how it's over there in Mexico or US, but here, coming to a family gathering with a negative COVID test is becoming a kind of table etiquette. So it's a social thing. Many of my friends are posting stories on Instagram every 3 days with a negative test, so like everybody knows.
Yeah.
And in Austria here, there is generally in the whole European Union, I guess, a big issue with the vaccine, because as they announced just recently 2 days ago, they miscalculated something when they ordered the vaccine for the European Union. So, I mean, when I read in the news that in the US 100 how many, like 100 million people already got the vaccine or so?
I don't know the exact I don't know the exact statistic, but yeah, it's pretty close now.
Almost half of the population. And
yeah.
In Russia, for example, you can get this stupid vaccine in every shopping mall within 10 minutes for free with a passport.
It's fucking
in
crazy.
Austria, they like in the whole Europe, they just don't have enough. They're still giving the vaccine to only people who count as important as like socially important, and those are obviously politicians, lawyers, police, well, teachers as well, obviously medical stuff.
That's crazy to hear, because I feel like, at least from my perspective, like, so I'll agree with you. In the United States, specifically in the United States, it's a huge social divide. This thing, it's split people in half, and I think it was already ready to happen. But this has kind of driven the nail into the coffin, so to speak. In Mexico, it's been a little bit looser. Look, in Mexico, there's no choice. Like, human beings don't have a choice. The work couldn't stop. For example, the minimum wage in Mexico is 87 pesos a day for an entire day, which means about 3 euros a day is the minimum wage. Normally, like a cook in a kitchen, I can give you an example. Like an entry level cook is probably making about 150 pesos a day normally, so less than 10 euros a day. So when you talk about shutting down operations, these people don't have the money to survive a week, no? And so they have to keep working. So the working class to me is a bit anarchist here. They don't really give a shit. They're gonna keep doing what they're gonna do, and they're strong and keep pushing. Of course, there was deaths, but yeah, it seems that
I invite one for no, really. I sent a newsletter to chosen guests, to chosen regulars, to friends, because I've been waiting for a year now. Now it's a year, like, to stay realistic. Yeah. I came up with a whole new menu, and I was ready to begin on the 1st of February, as somehow they said before that, because how the thing with the lockdown has been working in Austria so far, they've been prolonging it like by 2-3 weeks every time. They said, okay, it's until the day, and on the day, like 5 days before day X, they say, okay, no, we're going to prolong it for another 2 weeks, then another 2 weeks, and then another 2 weeks. This is something what pissed me off extremely, like many people.
Yeah.
And at the end of January, I decided, okay, I came up with a nice, very playful, very, very cool menu, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. So I started inviting people into the restaurant privately. They pay. I say it's free donation. The price of the menu is on the website. Most of the people give actually much more money, because they appreciate this stuff. Because again, Vienna is compared to LA or Moscow or whatever, like large metropoles, it's a small city. Even comparing it to Paris or London or Berlin. And I had for example, a group of people here. Everyone is dressing up. They're going to the opera house. They all wear a tie and shirt, and ladies with dresses. And because I remember one girl, she somewhere in the middle of the dinner, she just cried. She just started crying, just bursted in tears, because she was so happy to eat at the restaurant after 4 months.
Yeah,
I'm also, and it makes me also very happy, because I see that people need it. People need a little bit of
yeah, and I think that's an important approach to take to discussing this issue. Like you said, it's the approach, for example, that we're seeing in the United States by the dinosaurs of the restaurant industry is talking about how it employs so many people, and talking about how it's the first job, and how it's the bleeding heart of America. The reality is we need to talk about the social impact of just being locked away and not having any communication. That goes for art, music, food, all of those things that can bring tears to your eyes and create emotion. And we've been suffering emotionless for a year without that connection in a lot of places around the world, no? And especially for guys like you, whose work is emotional. Your work is not, you're not just putting food on a fucking plate for people to come in and try to win a Michelin star. You're really emotionally connected to what you do. And so consumers connect with you in that manner, no?
as I say regarding that, like, when you have an idea in your mind, the idea needs to get out, whatever way, because if it stays inside for too long, it starts rotting and it starts stinking. It starts, smell really bad, and that can come out in any possible way. For some people, it can be also aggression. It can be really bad aggression, and that doesn't lead us into a good place.
Yeah. So, and are you, another negative aspect I've seen of this crisis that no one's discussing? Of course, now we're so deep in talking about COVID in general as a society that no one talks about all the other things that are happening around the world that are fucking destroying the planet. And somehow there's like a veil of secrecy shed over all these things while they happen in the background. But one of the upticks, and I don't know if you guys, because I assume that a lot in the United States and in Mexico, all of the shift was to go food. And so obviously what that created was a huge influx of disposable ware that's just being sent to the landfill, and I can guarantee you that the majority of it is not recycled, and a lot of the shit that is recycled might not be being recycled. So now there's this other side. We're not connecting with the food anymore, and at that point I don't even think it's necessary to eat that food is just fuel. You can't really recreate the experience, and what we're doing is poisoning the world by employing a bunch of tactics that are unnecessary. No? Did you guys in Vienna, was that a shift that happened for you guys? Was it like, did a lot of people shift to go? I know that, I don't think that you did. I'm not sure if you did, but.
What do you mean exactly?
Like to go food? A lot of people, all the restaurants in the US and Mexico shifted to go food. And I was saying that this introduced a bunch of disposable trash, waste, and carbon footprint that wasn't already there, or was to some extent, but now has been amplified. And I don't know, is that something that happened in Vienna, and are people conscious about that happening?
I actually have no idea how conscious they are, because, and I'm trying not to follow too many news because it's just poisoning your day.
Yeah.
Trying to reduce it to the necessary minimum. I'm in the news.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I haven't seen much of issues being discussed with all the disposable packaging, and obviously it's happening because for some people started cooking much more at home, but there's still so much takeaway and delivery food that it creates a lot of trash. I mean, Vienna is doing kind of more or less fine because a large part of the city is heated by a power plant which is burning recyclable, burnable stuff.
Yeah.
Is in the city I think in Vienna they are doing pretty good waste management. At least management of what goes to waste. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
But we are not speaking of the stages like before and before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we just today we went to a packaging free food store, kind of grocery store.
Yeah.
But obviously it's not so big as I'm just guessing in the US.
No, we don't have, no. In the United States, packaging free stores do not fucking exist unless they're in a local community, because they can't, I don't know how the standards are, or I should not say standards. I should say how the regulations are in Europe. But for example, in the United States, in Mexico, you can do whatever the fuck you want. In Mexico, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can go to the market and there's meat hanging all day long out in open air. It's beautiful, really, because that's how we should be consuming. A lot of that meat isn't raised. Huh? That's called dry age. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's 30 degrees Celsius dry age. But no, it's really in the United States, it's so heavily regulated that you can't serve wild game. If you go to a farmer's market, all those farms are checked by USDA, and you can buy things at a farmer's market for sure out of a bag, like not in a bag, but you can't. There's a lot of regulations in the United States. And of course, I believe that those regulations are in place to ensure the profit is going to the heads, no?
Yeah. I mean, the Spar supermarket chain, like one of the biggest supermarket chains in Europe, actually origins from Austria. They were the main election campaign sponsor of the current chancellor. So obviously there is the main support goes to large corporations as almost everywhere in the world.
Yeah. How are you sourcing your product inside the restaurant right now? And you're able to work with any product that you choose, or is there regulations regarding the products that you serve?
To be honest, I don't give a shit. I use it, and nobody checks anything because I'm so small.
Yeah.
Anyways, since 5 months, I'm officially closed. So
you're just
one way or another, there are no checks. But yeah, and I'm going more and more like with really big steps towards like small community structures and pure anarchy. Because I invite people, I tell them you pay cash. I go to the farmers market every weekend. I see what I want to use. I buy the stuff. I carry it myself in a bag to the restaurant, and then I cook with it. So there is no delivery from the farm or something. It's just
yeah.
I know farmers I work with. I try to meet some new ones. I'm just trying to do the thing which I guess is the right thing to do, and I don't care about the regulation.
Yeah,
but again, I'm sure it's possible when the business is small, because what I'm doing now is I'm serving it's been like 2-3 dinners per week, something like that.
Yeah.
With for one group of guests. I also do it for couples, so it's from 2 to 8 people, because I only have one large table which can seat 8 people, and I have a counter which can seat 6 people.
Okay.
So I just do it. I don't think about the police. I don't think about the regulations. I just don't care about them, because I know that I cannot change anything in a big scale. If I wanted, I would have to go into the politics, into some lobby, to change my profession. My work is making people a little happier with giving them a nice, pleasant, cozy food experience. And what I'm trying to think about is how to make it not only spinning around the fun axis, or how to deliver a message to the people in a kind of joyful and playful way, that they start thinking about what's happening with us here.
Yeah,
And what is obvious, I try to remind myself often that all what we are talking about, all what we're talking with other colleagues, with other friends, with our guests who are in, it's a bubble. We are in a very small bubble. Because if you go out and like in a late afternoon, go into the large supermarket and you look at what the masses actually buy, what they have in their trolleys, in their grocery trolley, in the supermarket. This is crap, man. This is so much bullshit produce, which it just shouldn't be there.
I think that
But you know.
Yeah, I think that we are, but I think that and I think that what's super necessary. So being that you were talking about being in a small scale, it's possible in a small scale, and you understand that it will be very difficult to affect or near impossible to affect change on a large scale. I believe that this is the way. I believe that this is one of the things that hopefully this crazy fucking pandemic will bring, is that there will be smaller restaurant. I don't see a necessity for a 100-seat restaurant. I think it's fucking absurd. It's the same thing as it's the same thing as a grocery store the size of Walmart or Costco, right? Like it's there.
McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly. And so and I think that I think that part of the problem that we face in trying to make this change, and this is why I'm the same as you, like I don't give a fuck and I will continue to do what I'm doing and I will push myself further away and try to speak my message, is that we have chefs who feed into the system. And now, you told me that you were going to do a speech about farm to table and like the misuse of that word at Mindclang. I think that's what you told me the topic was going to be. And this is the poison that we suffer from. You can go into a grocery store and believe that what you're doing is buying into a system that's good for the world and good for the environment when it's actually not. And so I think it's important.
Just today, sorry for interrupting. Just today,
No.
we had a conversation about not even misusing. I mean, it is misused from the producers or seller side, but it's also not even misunderstood. It's just not really understood by people what it means to be organic, like certified as organic, some kind of food, some kind of products. Because having a certificate which says this food is marked as organic, it doesn't mean that it's organic at all. It just follows certain regulations, which are again created by some lobby or some corporations. Because again, if you go to McDonald's, it can be certified as biologically produced food, but there is no definition what's biological. Because what started this conversation today, I told you. Few hours ago, we went to this packaging-free grocery store, which is all a great idea. But then I looked at the dairy fridge with the cheese stuff, and I saw butter, like in large chunks, which you would take out and I guess wrap in paper still, but I don't know how she would give me a chunk of butter. But then I saw it, looked at the price tag, and it said it comes from, says like bio butter, and it comes from the largest and the worst dairy farms or like dairy corporations in the whole country. And then I asked myself, like, people who run a packaging-free grocery store, they must live with strong principles, I guess. Otherwise, they wouldn't a packaging-free grocery store, right? So, what the fuck do they think when they support a huge dairy produce corporation? Even if they say like, "Oh, look, we have the bio certificate. We are good now. We are good people." but they are not, because
That's-
not clean. They feed the cows the same organically certified food which comes from wherever in the world. Not much has changed, actually.
yeah. The thing is, for example, in the United States and now everywhere around the world, regenerative agriculture is becoming the new word, right? And I saw recently in the past few months that everybody's shifting their concept, and even the largest producers of grain now in the country are starting to say that they're using those practices. The number one problem that I have with this, and I actually made a post about Puyol, which is like the number one restaurant in Mexico right now, receiving an award for sustainability, is where the fuck is the checklist? Can we see the checklist? Can we see the checklist of what it takes to be certified as regenerative, as organic, as sustainable? All of those things must have a list. And if you go into those places, I can assure you that none of those things are really being produced. Like you said,
I'm sure that what did I want to say? Something about Christian Polisi. Yeah, he was the one who closed the restaurant because of the disappointment by the whole Michelin star and other awards. Because I'm sure you saw this. You saw this post. It was some time ago. Where when there was the last Michelin award, right?
yeah.
He got for LA, which had been closed anyway. Now he got this newly introduced green leaf from Michelin.
Yeah, I saw this. Yes.
He got a call from some random person who asked like, "Oh, actually, we are. Do you consider your restaurant as sustainable and ecological?" And that was the only question they wanted to know, to give him the sustainability Michelin award. She said, "Fucking pathetic." He said, "Nobody came with anything, because you are asking now about Puyol and so on. And it's like, can we see the checklist?" So, is there a checklist? There is no fucking checklist.
Yeah.
It's just, in Vienna, in the Viennese dialect of German, they have a beautiful word which is Freundelwirtschaft. So it's like, I mean, I can translate it as like buddies economy.
Yeah.
If, I'm the cool Michelin guy. I know that Christian Polisi is a cool guy. Just going, "Yeah, buddy, hey, how are you doing? I'm from Michelin. Are you actually considering yourself as sustainable?" "Yeah, sure, of course I do." And then things like that. I witnessed stuff. I cannot say a name because I actually highly respect this person, but I witnessed things which are in a restaurant which has this many different awards as a sustainable restaurant of the year in the world and in Asia and so on. And I saw carcasses of farmers, or real organic farmer stocks, including all the innards and including the necks and everything, just going fresh in masses because nobody needed it.
Yeah.
And
This is the thing.
Same time, the restaurant got an award, a very big award, for being a sustainable restaurant of the year.
Yeah. This is
And
the thing
then
that
and I thought, like, what the fuck? What is happening there? That's just wrong. This
is the thing is, I see it like, it's like you said, it's been from the beginning. This, if you look at the lineage of restaurants in general that are successful or have won awards, they're all stemming from the same fucking old French dude. It's all stemming from the same dude. It's all lineages of people who have worked in specific restaurants. And then the young kids who go to culinary school want to get out and stage at a restaurant because they know that will be their chance to either get an investor, get on a list, or get a job at a restaurant that will eventually lead them. It's all about these names. And for a while it was okay because it was just a bunch of old men patting themselves on the back about making some fucking recreating the same shit in a different form that they've been making their entire lives, like cover bands. That was what it was. But where it becomes dangerous is now that organic and regenerative farming or sustainability is a catchphrase, they need to put somebody, they need to take part in that. And the way they take part in it is, like you said, just calling the dude, yo, dude, are you sustainable? Because we can't give this to Igor because Igor's totally against everything that we believe in. So there's no way that we could give him a sustainability award. Is there any way we can throw this thing at you? And of course, that's how it works now. And the ones who speak out about it generally aren't going to be the ones who are going to win it, or the ones who are actually practicing it will never win it. No, so I think that that's the case. And like you, I don't give a fuck. I'm here to do it the right way. And I think getting away from the madness is getting away from the city is the only way you can truly experience it. I think it's almost impossible to be sustainable inside of a city. No? Do you feel that way? Like, do you feel like there's practices that you are unhappy with inside your workplace because you're in a city, you have to employ them?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, paying rent to a huge insurance corporation which owns the building, the restaurant, isn't. I guess that's
yep.
one.
Yeah.
Otherwise, well, I'm fine. I mean, heating, we are using gas for heating and for heating up water. And we also have a gas stove. But I see that I use the smaller, sustainable, whatever it means. I never researched into it. But I mean, electricity-wise, Austria is quite fine. They have a lot of water, like hydro-generated.
Okay.
Energy. They have a lot of wind-generated energy, so it's kind of okay. I'm trying to see that since the energy market is free, I'm seeing that I'm buying electricity from smaller suppliers. Otherwise, it's interesting. I think it's quite fine.
Yeah, I guess it's a little bit different. I guess it's probably a little bit different there as well than, like, for me, Los Angeles was just a nightmare. Los Angeles is actually really poisonous in the sense that, like, on the surface it looks like a very clean and beautiful and sustainable place, but the reality is everybody's employing those tactics that we're discussing to kind of pull the wool over the eyes by being part of an old union of or an old brotherhood there. But I definitely, one of the things that I seek is to try to keep myself out of that as much as possible. And it's crazy when you get outside. Like, one of the crazy things that happened for me on the coast of Mexico was I told myself I'm just going to work with this one farm. In the first year I said, I'm just going to work with this one farm from the coast. And so the shift in my mind had to be in creativity. It had to be like, instead of thinking about a dish and then pulling together all the ingredients to create that dish, I had to look at the ingredients first and then create the dish from those ingredients. Because I find as chefs, that's a lot of what we are trained to do.
Which is necessary for the whole gastronomy, I guess.
Yeah. And it also makes you work with shit that you normally wouldn't work with. I fucking hated eggplant. I hated like, the farm grows a lot of eggplant. I also didn't ask the farm to grow me anything. I just took what they had. So they grow a lot of squash and a lot of eggplant. And those are two things that I just like inherently was not a fan of using because I hadn't, like, they're always used the same way, but I started to get super creative, no? And I started to challenge myself again.
You cannot make like 90% eggplant based menu.
No, I mean, what we have is like 25 Actually, what I started to do, and the way I've been creating, and the way I will continue to create now, is I try to create each dish with one ingredient in many different forms. That's kind of my focus. So that was the idea. Just, okay, I've got 25 ingredients. And I'm making a 10-course tasting menu. I guess each plate has to focus on one ingredient as its main component, and then just use that in every possible way. So that's kind of where the focus shift was for us. So
Okay.
you were in.
I mean,
You were.
it's hard to ask.
No, I was gonna say you were in your food is. I'm interested to hear about, because you were in like South Korea when this whole thing kicked off. No, and you've spent a lot of time in that area.
Yeah,
And
South Korea and Japan. Yeah.
I'm interested in how you have crossed, because in specifically in Japan, there's a lot of focus. There's a lot of focus on product, no, and there's a lot of care in product, and so I'm interested in how you translate that into your local community using the products that are available there, or like what you took away from that. If it was technique, if it was mentality, if it was.
That's a tough question, because especially when we are speaking about South Korea and all the fermented stuff, also Japan, you know, I have to say I'm not a big fan of this trendy fermentation culture. It's,
I'm with you.
The normal fermentation guide, and then ferment our grandmother. She's dying anyway. Let's keep her for grandmother miso.
Yeah.
Grandmother. Because so many people produce stuff which they only read about and never tried the original. And I mean, it's like in Russian they say it's a stick with two ends,
Yeah.
Or just two sides of one coin. It's absolutely great that people learn to produce food at home, also to preserve stuff at home, whatever it is, pickling, fermenting in whatever way. And that's obviously better than they go to, again, the supermarket and look for kikkoman soy sauce there. Absolutely true. But then it disturbs, and I don't want to call it evolution now, right? It really disturbs a lot of deep, honest, generic traditions. Because somebody who never went to South Korea and never ate like several types of, there are hundreds of types of kimchi, because kimchi just means like this kind of fermentation. It's not the word for napa cabbage, it's the word for fermented with salt.
Okay.
So kimchi can be made with anything. But somebody who never tried the original kimchi cannot claim making original kimchi from whatever produce, from whatever vegetables. We had yesterday a sweet potato kimchi made by some Austrian guy, which is like a fucking shit, man. You cannot produce that. You cannot do that. You cannot just grate raw sweet potato, mix it with ginger and fish sauce and chili and call it kimchi, because it's like, no.
Yeah.
I have a friend in Japan. Maybe you heard of Nancy Hutchison, an American lady who's been living for many years on a farm. She's married to a Japanese farmer, and she wrote these books like Japanese farm food, preserving the Japanese way, and she's kind of authority for Japanese food outside of Japan, or English-speaking authority for Japanese food. uh, she's a good friend, and I remember one conversation with her when she told me how she was invited to a fermentation festival in Australia somewhere. So she went there. She took samples. I mean, she makes some stuff herself, like miso for home consumption. But she never gives it to anyone, just to people who come there to try. She cooks with it sometimes. But in the area where she lives, there's one famous soy stuff producer called Yamaki. The company is called Yamaki. It's a company with a 400 or 700-year-old tradition with the wooden barrels, which are of that age. And then she takes samples of this stuff, brings it to Australia to this fermentation festival, and all these fancy boys and girls who make their miso with chickpea, miso with that pea, with another pea, with dog's pea, I don't know what. They try this old stuff with centuries of tradition. Like, yeah, but our miso tastes different.
Yeah.
What does it say? What does it tell us?
This is
I don't like what I feel when I hear things like that.
No, and fermentation is that one.
Like Vienna is a small city. That's why every hype which comes, it spreads very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I opened the first ramen shop, 2015. The first handmade everything ramen shop. Now it was 2015. Now there are like 12.
Yeah.
The city is smaller than Copenhagen. The city is smaller than anything. And in Copenhagen there are 2 ramen shops.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah.
Right. Copenhagen. There is Slurp, which is run by an Austrian guy, and then there is this ramen Topiro from Ivan Orkin. That's it. There are no other ramen shops in Copenhagen. In Vienna, there are 12 because everyone thinks, oh, nice, ramen sells well. Let's make some ramen, guys.
I think I think
how many fermentation shops there are? There are like at least 5. I could call the names out loud like now, and there will be probably more. More. Like, guys, we don't need so much kimchi.
This is the funniest thing. This is the funniest thing about, especially with fermentation. I've done it. I've done fermentation for like 10. I want to say going on like 10 years now, and I got to a point in Los Angeles where I was using like airlocks and temperature conditioned rooms, and then when my grandmother got ill, and passed away, I was looking through her old recipes, and there was recipes from like 1910 that said, like, it didn't say lacto fermented anything. It said like St. John's pickles, and St. John's pickles said put water and salt in a crock and put the things in it and put it underneath the stairs and check it in 2 weeks. And that's really how easy fermentation is. So when we make it out to be this but what's necessary is the tradition, like you're saying. Like, you need to understand the tradition of fermentation. It also needs to happen in the place where it's been created to really replicate it, I think. And so it is a fucking a trend, and because it's so easy to do, everyone can do it. Really, anyone can ferment. Really, it's not that hard.
Very easy to do, to get a really good taste, actually.
Yeah, but
it's relatively easy, but I think, starting to do something, one should understand the notes, the grammar, Before you speak a language, you should learn the grammar, at least the basics.
I fucking love that.
And, is not the grammar, it's just something you learn, like the rules you learn, or I don't know. Especially, I see it a little bit in a different way, because, I learned to drive a car with a very, very old Lada. Like, I went to driving school when I was 18, like 17 actually, shortly before 18th birthday, when when one is allowed to get driver's license in Russia. So I went to driving school and I got like the very first model of the Lada car. And it was pretty hard to control this thing because it's all mechanical. It's all hard. You need to have strong legs, strong arms to turn the wheel, strong legs to push the clutch pedal. But then it gives you an understanding how the car works. And then you can jump into whatever Mercedes-Benz and whatever electric BMW. And I think with fermentation, if you work with the bacteria, you need to understand that those are actually living creatures first of all.
Yeah.
Before claiming kimchi as, I would say it's not. Or sourdough or yeast and all other fermentation bacteria, they're alive. I think it's very important, for example, to understand that before the room, your fermentation room where you do it, develops all these cultures inside. It's everywhere. It's on the walls. It's on the wooden table where it lives there, and it builds up those colonies of tiny creatures.
Yeah.
And before you get somewhere where a person who is experienced with fermenting stuff tries it and says, "Yeah, I feel the life," and I think it takes years. It's like with winemaking or sake brewing or beer brewing, or of course, I mean we are smart monkeys, we can do a lot from scratch very quickly from the beginning. And obviously as I don't know how it's said correctly in English, but in Russian there is a proverb saying newbies always get lucky. Beginner's luck.
Beginner's luck.
Beginner's luck. I failed so many times also with kimchi, but I'm trying not to experiment too much with fermentation because as there's one cook in Japan who only cooks vegetables in different ways. With one thing, I always forget what's the name. It's the oldest Japanese cooking tool. It's like a clay pot where you make fire inside, and then you put it's not burned in the oven. There is a plate on top which you soak in water for many hours before, and then you put it over fire, and so it doesn't crack. It needs this water, and it gives the from the water, so you can cover it. It can work like a tachin. It can work. You can grill on it. It's actually a multi-task thing. It's pretty cool. And he said in an interview, I think it was for the Full magazine, for this Japan issue of Full magazine. He said that he doesn't do fermentation because he doesn't consider himself as experienced enough with it, and he thinks that many chefs just serve rotten food to their guests. Wine he serves at the restaurant is enough of fermented product.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it's fun to play. I mean, of course, I'm making this koji quinoa thing.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I started to use the way that I use fermentation now is that I use scraps. I have I try as much as possible to have zero waste, which I'm pretty fucking good at this point. And so, like, for example, if I use fish, I'm making fish sauce, just salt and I'm just using fruit scraps to make vinegars. And that's what I do now. I don't like advertise any of that shit on the menu or on Instagram. I just use it because that's why we originally created fermentation, I think. And I think that not just in fermentation, but in a lot of things, which is interesting because Japan, like you have a lot of experience in Japan. I haven't been yet, specifically because I think I'll go fucking nuts there and go head first. I just love the mentality there that like you have to protect if you're gonna present yourself as like a proponent of something, you have to be a master of it. And so for example, in the United States, in a lot of places now, you see a lot of people producing their own cheese, their own cured meats, doing all of these things. Is like I never did that because I can buy it from somebody that's much better at doing it, that has generations of history, and I will never be able to catch up with that person. So why would I try myself to do something unless I could give it a full honest effort, you know? So
yeah, sure.
I think that's happening with a lot of things in food.
What I think is good is, as I said at the beginning of the fermentation topic, it's good that people are doing something because from the cultural perspective and from the culinary perspective, a lot of things produced, especially at homes and at many restaurants, is crap. Fermentation. But it's still better to try to make your own stuff than going to corporations and get whatever industrially produced shit. That's anyway the good. It's the better, the bright side of this topic. But from the culinary perspective, it's a bit disturbing because people produce so much crap and it just doesn't taste good.
The entire industry has been going in that direction, and I hate that it's even called an industry, but like culinary schools are a big reason why this exists. No, because people just go through the ranks. People want to be chefs. I never wanted to be a chef. I wanted to be a cook. I wanted to fucking play. I wanted to cook food.
Those are my words.
So I think that, you know, I think that hopefully there'll be an evolution. I think there's going to need to be a crash before there can be an evolution. And I think just, you know, if guys like you and I can keep doing what we're doing and speak loudly, hopefully we'll get a voice at some point, because I know that there's a lot of people that probably want to muffle your voice, as I'm sure they want to muffle mine. So I think that we just have to stay true to ourselves and teach our future generations the ways of the real anarchist cookbook, being a cook.
Yeah. This is actually a book I'm gonna write one day.
Yeah.
Because it's still too raw, I won't tell you.
It's all right. We'll get back.
I have an idea of a cookbook which is gonna be cool. I mean, for me. Cool.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, brother, and I hope that we can get together soon. We've been at about an hour, and I want to make sure that we've got enough juice left in the tank.
Actually, you know what? I have a Mexican friend here.
Yeah.
Lady, she's from Mexico City originally. She's a cook who's been on TV there. I don't know if you by accident ever heard. It's called Maria Baez. She's a bit an older lady. I mean, like over 50 something.
I don't know that.
I'll put you on Instagram. She's cool. She has a taco place in Vienna, which was newly opened because she had a restaurant in Mexico.
Okay.
In Mexico. She says she was a kind of star chef because she had something on TV and she has like 30,000 followers on Instagram or so. She saved recipes from like pre-Hispanic cuisine, which she found in the mountains or libraries, whatever. And then she moved to Vienna with her husband because he got some kind of project offer, which was cancelled because of COVID, and they decided to open the taco shop. And last time I've been there, we spoke about Mexico. She said land in Mexico is so cheap, just go there and
come down, man. It is an affordable place to come. And that, as you said before, you used the moniker before, it's a double-edged sword, because yeah, it's great that it's cheap to move down here, and it's great that there's people that are interested in coming down for the culture. But there's a lot of people who are interested, who believe that look, the culture in Mexico is vibrant. It's beautiful. The food is beautiful and delicious, but people don't understand the suffering that goes on behind all of that culture and what it took for, specifically in a place like Oaxaca, for these people to hold on to these traditions through centuries of being tormented by invaders. And now it continues with a form of gentrification, specifically on the coast, and now happening in Oaxaca too, that people just come down because it's cheap and take advantage of it being cheap, and don't kick anything back into the system. So it's beautiful and land is cheap, but if you're going to come here, not you, because I know that you would always pay respect, but if anybody that's listening, if you're going to come to Mexico, try to come for the right reasons and try to respect what people go through. You know, I try in all of my projects, a lot of, like, for example, people that are coming here to open restaurants will just go with what is the norm for paying people. I don't think it's fair to pay a cook 150 pesos for 12 hours of work, especially not if I'm making more money. And I'm willing to level my lifestyle a little bit so that everyone can share in the pie.
If you charge like $200 for a menu and you pay $2 per hour to your cooks, I guess that's not cool.
No, and I don't need
I just want to cook myself with maybe with a partner. I'm running the place or whatever.
That's what I'm doing too. I think that's a beautiful way to work. No, I think that this fucking system of paying cooks or I have a lot of people hit me up actually to come down and stage, because a lot of people want to come, and I tell them I don't accept stages. I don't believe it's okay for you to work for free. So if you want to come and I have space for you, I'll pay you to work, but just know that also if you don't work out, you're going to get let go. And I actually don't really accept anybody anymore, because I've found a local girl that I've worked with. It's just me and her in the kitchen cooking, and I can't find anyone that will connect in that way, because now all of these cooks want to run up the ranks, and they think that they know. You know, I mean, I've been doing this since I was 13. I'm 35, so I've got, I can't fucking count right now, but a lot of years in the kitchen, and it took me a long time and it took me a long time to even feel like I was worthy of creating, because I wanted to master everything in the kitchen first. So I wanted to master knowing how things work before I tried to figure out why things work. And so I think that I hope that there can be a change in the
experiments very often.
Yeah.
That's actually my cooking way of how I cook. I just see what I have, and I just cook it and I give it to people.
Yeah.
I rarely plan things or like make a lot of trials. Some things I did, but usually I don't. I'm trying to rely on my intuition, because intuition is actually experience.
Yeah, and I think that, but you've been cooking for how many? You have 18 years cooking, 18 plus years cooking, 20 years cooking, something like this.
For fish, well, or let's say I'm doing it for life.
Yeah.
Just for 6 years now.
Okay, but you were cooking before.
Well, not professionally, or let's say not for money.
Yeah. But you've cooked food.
Doing something in the kitchen when I was a little child, literally, like baking cookies and my mom baked bread, and I bake cookies, which I put around the bread all the time.
Yeah. So you've been connected to food for a long period of time. I guess what I'm trying to get at is that, like, you saying that you're experimenting now with things, and you saying that, like, experimenting is experience. That's absolutely true. Like, imagine that people are getting out of school going to culinary school for 2 years and then coming and getting chef positions and trying to write a menu. Well, that doesn't really make sense to me because their toolbox is so small. And also your experience is pretty vast in the sense that you've spent time going to Japan and South Korea and other places around the world to gather perspective and gather a toolbox of techniques that you can use. So for you to experiment, it's a little bit different than someone, for example, who's trying, like you said, to make kimchi because they went to culinary school and took a elective course for 3 hours about how to make kimchi and now are going to start a kimchi brand.
Exactly. That's what I don't like. You know, if you want to experiment at home. But as you said, you know, reading in some book, going to cooking school, and then starting a kimchi brand. It's you know,
and it's
brands which have written underneath like since 2021. You know.
yeah. Maybe don't.
Why would I do that? You know, if it's been existing for like at least 100 years, then it makes sense to write that founded 1921. You know, then it's cool. But
yeah, and I think that, and I think
doesn't support.
And I think that that's the problem, is that we've turned, you know, and I will say that cultural appropriation doesn't just happen outside of the borders of a country. It also happens inside a country. There's a lot of people in Mexico, for example, who exploit traditional, I mean, look, there's a lot of fucking problems there. Rural food in general is overcharged in a lot of restaurants around the world. I think a lot of people take things from rural areas and push them onto fancy plates and maybe aren't executed as well. So look, I think that we just have to pay respect. You know, I think that we have to pay respect with what we do, and we have to pay respect in time. We have to put the time in to learn, no? We have to put the time and care into learning what someone created for centuries. So
yeah, of course. Let's
get these fucking kids in line. All right, brother. Well, hey, I we've been at it for an hour, and I want to keep some juice in the tank for the next one, because we'll definitely have to do this again. But before we clap out, I want to hear a little bit. Let us know what you've got coming up, what you've got going on, when you're planning the grand exodus.
Yeah. So I'll keep you posted. I'll invite you wherever.
Yeah, and so is Noble Savage is open right now? You guys are by appointment?
Well, it's it's in a submarine mode, in stealth mode, obviously. I have a big curtain there, and I put non-transparent foil on all doors and windows.
Sick.
It's just appointment only restaurant. And I'm going to keep it for life. I don't want any like many seatings or double seating or whatever, different groups coming at different times. No, there will be just one time and one or maybe 2 or 3 small groups, like 2 or 3 couples, which would come at the same time. Then I don't need more. I don't want more. I want to feel like they're. I want my guests to be real guests, not customers, not visitors, not eaters. I want them to be my guests.
Beautiful.
It's
your house. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I'll put all the links to your Instagram and to the restaurant's Instagram in the show notes, and stick around just for like 2 seconds once I cut this recording. But really, really beautiful to share some words with you in person, kind of over the internet finally, and I hope that we can cook together soon. I really love your approach.
Great.